Welcome to another episode of Punch TV. We've got a jam-packed episode for you today. We have 3 superstar guests. First off, you are going to meet Ryan Howe, who is the artist who created the caricatures on our fantastic set. Then you are going to meet Jill Oliver, who is a collector of the Babysitter Club books. Tony is going to talk to her about her collecting. And on Tweetbeat, we have superstar extraordinaire mini movie geek Luke Silliphant. So stay tuned because there's so much in store. Well, I am very excited to have artist Ryan Howe with us. Ryan did the caricatures that decorate our set. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I really love your work. I love Daisy Blackwood. So tell us what is on board for Daisy in 2018.
Oh, Daisy will have another, I'm wrapping up the current story, The Dreamland Demon, right now. It should be done next month, I believe. And then I'll be taking about a month off while I prep the next story and finish up some other projects. And then we'll go right into the next full book right after that. So,
woohoo!
yeah.
Okay, that's very exciting. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Daisy Blackwood is like this amazing, strong female protagonist. It kind of has a feel of like the super marquee, matinee idol movies. It strikes me every time I read it as like, oh, this feels like something like Steven Spielberg would want to direct because it's got that action happening. Why did you set it where you set it? What was your impetus behind creating Daisy?
So one of the first comics I remember reading was Uncle Scrooge by the Good Duck artist, by Carl Barks, right? And so that kind of set a lot of my own aesthetics for what I like for adventure stories, and that now just gravitates towards Indiana Jones when I was older, and The Mummy and all that kind of fun stuff. So those kind of serial adventure movies, as far as time period goes, the best part about the 1940s and 50s and stuff is there's no cell phones, there's none of the tech that makes why didn't they just call somebody, right? So there's a little more having to go and do stuff, and there's also a little more of the unexplored world, right? So I mean, looking back on it from our perspective in time, you can't do a lot of this stories deep, dark jungle, because that's bad for a lot of reasons, right? But you still have the idea of there could be pockets of the world with dinosaurs and stuff that might still be existing, or the mad scientists with the steampunky stuff is still possibilities. So.
Cool, yeah. It seems like it would be limiting, but it actually expands your possibilities.
Yeah. It also makes it seem a little bit more otherworldly because we're not used to seeing that kind of tech anymore. You're not used to seeing tubes and radios and things like that. So.
Yeah, and I love that. There is a lot of technical stuff in there, and it looks so great.
Thank you.
I love the style of it. Now, you do this as a webcomm, and then once you kind of have an arc done, then you publish and put it out to the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I give it away for free, and then I try to get you to pay for it.
Which is awesome. I mean, I think that's such a brilliant way to do things because you're not locked into I have to get a contract with DC or Marvel to get my stuff out in the world. It's you're taking it totally on your own and just controlling everything, which is amazing. How much work is it to put out a weekly webcomm?
It's not bad. So when I first started it, I thought about that, right? I'm like, okay, is this going to completely kill me? Because my family occasionally likes to see me. So, and I do a full-time job as well. So this is really evenings and weekends. So each Daisy page is a normal 11 by 17 comic book page, just cut right down the middle.
Right.
And when I was working out how I was going to do that, I was looking at books like Asterix and a lot of the European stuff. And you look, and it's an A and a B tier, so they can later section them off. I'm like, okay. Other people do this. It's not outside the realm of normal.
No.
So that was kind of the idea of it. So it's a lot of work, but it's basically a page and a half of finished art every week, which is really not too bad.
That's a ton.
It's enough.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's great.
I mean, there's a trade-off though, right? It's a smaller amount of space. The trade-off though is you do more panels to tell the story, right? So instead of maybe a 2 or 3 panel page, you end up with maybe an 8 to 12 panel page on some of them. But you can reduce the backgrounds a lot too because you're focusing on characters a lot of the time. So. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
It's really cool. And I know that it is a lot of work. So thank you. Keep doing it. I love reading it every week. So if you haven't checked it out, you should definitely do that. Okay, technical stuff. What do you use to create Daisy? Is it digital entirely or a combination of pens and stuff? What's your...
So it's entirely digital. I switched over the workflow after we had our first child because there was little fingerprints everywhere with the ink. And also it took longer to do the ink because I have to let it dry because I do a very spot black heavy page.
Right.
So I switched entirely digital a while back. I use a Cintiq display tablet for everything, and I've got a little portable that I take. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It really does make things a lot easier, especially on the larger screen size, because it is almost like drawing on a real board. So for that, and then I use Clip Studio Paint or Manga Studio for the actual program, and then I'll do some touch-ups in Photoshop, and the actual lettering and page compositing is all done in InDesign.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a little while and, you know, getting pretty successful at this. Do you have any words of advice for those burgeoning comic artists that are out there that are like, you know, wanting to kind of break onto the scene? What's been successful for you in getting the word out about your comic?
Well, the biggest thing is just keep doing it, right? A lot of people are like, well, what am I going to start? Or am I going to do this? And you put it off. And the trick is just do it every day. Frazetta, I think, was one of the big proponents of just draw every day. And it's true. Like, the more you put it off, the rustier you get, the longer it takes to do anything. Whereas I know it seems like a lot of work to do that much art each week, but it's not, because you sit down, you draw it, you get faster, it just becomes a normal part of your day. So that's the biggest advice, is just keep doing it. Don't be afraid about posting sketches or things you might not like to the world, because somebody will like it, right? And it doesn't matter if somebody likes it, as long as you like it, right? Post it out there and just let it live, because somebody will discover it and be like, hey, it's cool, and that'll be, you know, it's a nice little pick-me-up, so.
Okay, awesome. Good advice. So if you're out there and you are starting your comic, just keep at it. Keep working at it and keep consistently putting stuff out there so that people don't forget about you.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We love your style. We love what you've done for Punch TV. And I can't wait to see the new Daisy Blackwood.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we have a really cool thing to show you on our next episode. Ryan actually came out and participated in Comics for Cause, and this is a really neat endeavor. There's a fella named Joel Scott. He's from Winnipeg, and he went to Africa, I think this summer anyways, and he was there, and he has all these like crazy tattoos of superheroes on. All these kids were like, well, who's that? I don't understand, like, what's on your arms? And he found out that there's this whole big world of kids who have no idea what superheroes or comics are. So he's made it his own man mission to like bring comics. We're gonna do a little mini Comic-Con on February 3rd. So by the time you're watching it, it will already have taken place. But we'll bring you some footage of that event on our next episode. And you can still contribute if you want to drop off comics to Amazing Stories, or if you want to contribute bucks to the cause. It is on GoFundMe, and it is just Comics for Cause. And it's just amazing. I think it's like an outstanding thing to try to bring the joy of superheroes and comics to kids all over the world. So stay tuned for that on our next episode, and we'll hopefully be showing some of Ryan's awesome art there too. So, all right, we will be back right after these messages.
Punch TV is brought to you in part by Amazing Stories, providing Saskatoon with comics, games, toys, graphic novels, t-shirts, and more for over 22 years. Online at AmazingStoriesComics.com, in person on 8th Street in Saskatoon.
Hello, lovely ladies and/or dudes. My name is Hank, and today on Tweetbeat, I have two special guests. One, you know. You love him. He's my BFF in the whole wide world. He's the Tom to my Jerry, the Jerry to my Ben, the Ben to my Cisco. He spells his name. He's got a Y, not an I. It's Tony. Ooh. Hey, Tony. And
thank you.
For the first time on Shaw Punch TV here in Saskatoon, we have Luke. Hey, Luke, how's it going?
Good.
You're good? Yeah. Luke, do you like when your dad reads you books?
Yeah.
What would your favorite story be that your dad reads you? Do you have a favorite?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is it about?
No, I don't have the book. It's my room.
In your room.
Nice. No, that's a book.
Oh, the book about your room. Nice.
Yeah, I like that.
Do you know that Tony is so old that he had to read books by candlelight in the sod house on the homestead? He's so old. And do you know what else? Did you know that dragons love tacos? Did you know that dragons love tacos too?
So funny.
Have you heard of this book before? This is one of my favorite books, one of my kids' favorite books. So parents out there, if you're looking for an awesome book to read your kid at bedtime that will be great to read over and over and over again, read this one. Tony, do you know what this is about?
I think it's about kids loving tacos.
Close. Maybe it would be great if Luke could hear maybe a little passage.
Oh, sure.
from the book.
No, I'm sorry. It's dragons.
Dragons. Yep.
Love tacos. Are you ready?
Part
Here we
two.
go.
Yeah,
Part
let's
two.
listen to this. This is good.
And because of a totally honest mistake, I'm not blaming anyone here. There were also some spicy tacos.
Spicy tacos. And do you know what happens when dragons eat spicy tacos?
No.
They breathe fire. Yeah, and they have tummy troubles. It's not good. It's not a good thing. So in this book, there's no more tacos. They have to go back in time to find some. The dragons are happy. This kid is happy. You're happy. It's a great book. You should tell your parents to buy you that, okay? Do you know what another great book is for kids?
This.
This book is all about, oh yes, hold it up.
Hold it up.
Yes, it is called Creepy Pair of Underwear. Hey, Tony, you know a lot about creepy underwear, right?
Yeah, right now I do. Yeah, happening.
Yeah, do you know what this book is about?
Look at the back.
It is this rabbit that was involved in creepy
Look
carrots,
at the back.
which now he is wearing a creepy pair of underwear. You don't even know until you've read this book. You know nothing about creepy underwear. Yeah.
I'm holding it that way so they can see. It's very creepy underwear.
Creepy underwear.
Creepy.
It is fun
he's
for the
scared.
whole family.
He's happy and he's scared.
God, he is scared. Well, wouldn't you be scared?
No, I don't have creepy.
And the best part is they glow in the dark.
So this book's about glow-in-the-dark underwear?
Yes.
Glow in the dark.
It's about glow in the dark underwear, where he's all freaked out at the start because they're going in the dark. And he's like, oh, I'm scared. But then he realizes without the underwear, his room is too dark, and he really does need the underwear. See?
Yeah. Okay, so you're trying to tell me that
I'm not trying to tell you anything. I'm
So if
trying
I
to tell
put
all the
on
parents
some-
out there to buy all of these books.
Okay, good. But if I'm wearing underwear that glows in the dark,
Yes.
I can see in the dark. It's like radiant.
Yeah, and you don't need a nightlight anymore. Because if
Okay,
you're afraid,
cool.
are you afraid of the dark, Luke?
No,
No, but if you were, you could wear a pair of underwear that doesn't glow in the dark. Before we go, the rest of these books are going to be scrolling along the bottom of the screen. But this is called We Found a Hat. Now, do you know what this is about? Right here, if you look, this is a turtle. His name is Tony. This is a turtle. His name is Hank. But there's only one hat that they find. So they run around the desert and they decide who's going to get to wear the hat. And then Hank's all like, you know what, Tony, you should wear the hat. You deserve it. But Tony's like, oh, no, Hank, you should wear the hat. You deserve it. And in the end, they decide, well, I don't want to, I'll spoil it. Nobody wears the hat because it's just not fair. Okay, so they leave it sitting there. Nobody wears a hat. So that's about all the time we have today for Tweet Beat. For everything that you should be watching, reading, listening to, playing, follow at Hank and Kelso and at Shaw Punch TV. That's it for me. My name is Hank. This is Tony. This is Luke. See you next time on
Tweet Beat.
Tweet Beat.
Does this mean I'm off the show now?
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm off
Yeah,
the show
I
now?
think so.
This is you and Luke now?
Yeah,
Oh,
show
I'm
over.
Super bummed out. Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Collector. I'm changing it up today. I'm going to talk about books. I know normally I talk about Star Wars and all kinds of fun toys, but today I'm changing it to books. I'm going to show my more serious side, the Babysitter Club. Jill, how's it going?
I'm good,
This
thanks.
is
How
my
are
friend
you?
Jill. Jill and I have known each other for a while, and Jill collects Babysitter Club books. So I don't know anything really about the Babysitter Club, and I didn't know that you can actually collect them. How many collections or how many Babysitter books are there?
You know what? There's 131
Okay.
in the original Babysitters Club series, but then there's a number of spin-offs too, and I've brought a couple of different ones to show you.
Oh, okay. There's spin-offs.
I call them spin-offs. I don't
Yeah.
know what to call them.
Yeah.
But I collect all of those ones as well, except for one. So there's another spin-off called Babysitter's Little Sister, and it follows the story of the president of the Babysitters Club, her little sister. But I've never liked them. I've never liked that character.
Okay.
I just don't collect
So
them.
you've actually read all these books, or are you just a collector where, so you read them and you
no.
collected them all, like, so when did you start buying them?
It was probably like 9.
9?
Yes. The series started in 86.
Yeah.
So it was around that time.
So you jumped in it, and then did you keep all the ones you had since you were young then? These are the books that you've been reading and you've been collecting them ever since?
Yeah, I grew up on them. Every time, it was allowance week, I would spend my allowance on a Babysitter's Club.
All right, now, why? What part of your life were you thinking, I need to keep these books? Because collecting is really strange. Like, a lot of people will collect certain things, toys, shoes. I know a guy who actually collects pans, like, cast iron pans. So people collect things and they love them. So why do you think that this is something that you've kept all, through your childhood and your adult life?
You know what, honestly, I got quite a few books when I was a kid. And then when I went to, when I was in high school and university, I think they actually just got boxed away and I forgot about them for a number of years. But then I found that box and I was like, oh, right. And I remembered how much I loved them.
Yeah.
And so I read a couple and I was like, oh, yeah, these are, I forgot how much I liked these.
And
so then I started again.
And that's the thing. I'm finding more and more people that I know are things that they liked when they were a child and they start collecting when they're an adult because it brings back memories of being a child. So is this like a big memory, like a great...
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, every allowance, I remember reading out on the deck every summer. When we would go camping, I would take a bunch of books with me and my mom would actually have to tell me like, okay, stop reading. Like,
and do some camping fun?
Go do some other fun
camping's
things.
Dumb.
I know.
Yes.
Terrible.
Camping's horrible.
I agree.
Okay, so now let's talk about the books a little bit. So they started in 1986.
Yep.
And I kind of looked up a little bit about this. There
Okay.
was one writer, Martin, and M. Martin was the writer, and then later on they had some ghost writers.
There was quite a few,
Yeah.
Pete
Okay.
Larrange's, Sweet
Yeah.
Pete.
Sweet Pete. And they ended. Why? Do you know why they ended?
You know what? I don't know exactly why they ended, but they ended on a really strange kind of note. So it started off with Christie's great idea.
Yeah.
Her
that's-
idea. Yeah.
This is the first one?
The first one.
And this is
yes.
actually dated like 1986.
86 it should
Oh,
be, yeah.
wow. Okay.
So then I guess.
I'm scared because I'm a collector. I don't want to crack it. I'll just
Oh.
be like, oh, this is how I read books.
No, you know what? My collection. It's fine. They're meant to be read.
No, they're not. Books are not. No, they're meant to be collected, Jill. These
Tony,
are
the good part's
collectibles.
on the inside.
No,
not
these
the
are
outside.
collectible. I don't want to break the spine. Don't break the spine. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, so it started off with Christie's idea, and then it ended on the very odd note of the fire at Mary Ann's,
Oh, man.
which was just sort of a really odd place to leave it off.
And as a collector, I can crack this one because you've actually got some spine damage.
You know what?
And this looks like it's almost been in a fire. You've not taken care
lot
of
of
your books, Joe. This is not. This
No.
is not. This is
They're
like you've
well
actually
read.
bent. You've
Read
bent
with
the
love.
cover. Yeah.
Yes, worth it.
Yes.
But a lot of the books that I get are from like Amazon or
Yeah.
book sales or garage sales.
You just find them inexpensive books.
Yeah, I've got about 10 left to go. Until
Okay,
I
so
have
you
the
are
complete
missing
collection.
some, and are you looking for them now?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any that you're missing? Maybe people want to donate them to us here at the show.
I would love that. Yes. Could they get in touch with you?
Yes, they could.
Let you know they have. There's one. It's called the BSC Trivia and Puzzle Fun Book.
Oh.
Very elusive. Never seen it on Amazon or anywhere.
Really? So
I
it's
know.
it's hard to find.
It is very hard to find. And I thought I found it once.
Yeah.
And so I ordered it on Amazon. There was no picture or anything. And then when I got it, it was like a children's.
Snotted. I snotted excitedly.
Thank you for your enthusiasm.
So excited.
But when they sent it to me, it was actually like a children's coloring book.
Oh, so
like,
it was a kid's
No,
book.
and like half of it had been colored in. What is this? So yes, still on the hunt for that
did
one.
you keep that one? That would have been the best one. Like, look what I bought. I bought a kid's coloring book that was half color.
I was so mad.
Were you mad?
What is this? Yeah.
Okay, so you have some that you're looking for. Now this is the one that you pulled out earlier. The summer.
Yeah,
No, this is a hardcover.
the summer before. Yeah, and this one actually came out more recently, and it's
Yeah.
sort of a prequel to the Babysitters Club.
Okay, so
Yeah,
is this
probably last 10
is
years.
this written by her then, or is this more of a
No, it's written by her too, just sort of explaining what happened the summer before Christie's great idea.
Oh, so it's a prequel book. Kinda
Yeah.
like look how shaky I am with these books. So this is actually, first edition 2010. So this is when it would have been the end of them writing them, I guess, then too.
I think there was quite a gap
yeah.
from when she wrote them and then.
Yeah, and then she did
started-
this.
yeah,
Okay,
did this one.
Gotcha. I heard there was they've reprinted some of them. Jody earlier was saying there was actually some graphic novels and stuff like that. So this is something
Yeah.
that still goes on today.
Yeah,
Are you
absolutely.
collecting all the new stuff? Or are you just finishing it at your 131 or whatever it is?
No, I'm more of, I guess, a purist. I don't care for the graphic novels.
But you
as
are
much,
buying
but-
the offshoots of these books then too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the California Diaries.
Yep.
And so this follows one of the members who moves back to California, and things sort of take a darker turn there.
California.
Like riddled with like teen angst.
And it's like got some crazy, look at that. It's like written in the way that it's like written.
It's like reading someone's diary.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad we're ending on the weird book. So there you go. It's handwritten weird book. Thanks.
Good.
Okay, Babysitter Club. Yeah, chill. Good collection. Thanks for bringing some of your books in today. It's exciting. I love hearing about people who collect different things. I hope you find your other books to look for. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Tony.
Punch TV is brought to you in part by Amazing Stories, providing Saskatoon with comics, games, toys, graphic novels, t-shirts, and more for over 22 years. Online at AmazingStoriesComics.com, in person on 8th Street in Saskatoon.
I'm Craig Silliphant, the Movie Geek, and this is 5-Minute Film School. Today, we're going to talk about film editing. What is editing? Well, as basically as I can possibly get, film editing is the art of assembling shots into a coherent sequence. Now, film editing itself is a huge topic, its own art form, really. There's a lot of cool stuff we could talk about, like the 180-degree rule or other basics, but we only have 5 minutes, so we have to narrow it down. We need to edit the information we're presenting. See what I did there? Today, I just want to show you how important editing is to the storytelling process. Most filmmakers worth their salt will tell you that a movie is written 3 times. Once with the screenplay, again with what you shoot on set, and finally in the editing room. A movie is visual storytelling, so an editor thinks in terms of things like movement, flow, pacing, meaning, and information. In terms of storytelling, the smallest piece of footage added, removed, or moved around can change the meaning of a scene. Editing is one of the most major parts of making a movie, but also one of the most underrated and underappreciated. I had a ton of examples I could have used to talk about editing, from Raging Bull to the shower scene in Psycho to 7 different cuts of Blade Runner. However, the nerdiest example I could come up with that would illustrate my point was Star Wars. Yes, folks, if you didn't know it, it's been said that Star Wars was saved in the editing room. When George Lucas presented a rough assembly cut, it was screened for directors Brian De Palma and Steven Spielberg. As Spielberg tells it, afterward, De Palma was livid, ranting and raving that the movie was nonsense. So Paul Hirsch and the editing team, including Lucas's wife at the time, Marsha Lucas, rebuilt the movie. You can find some great videos online that explain all the edits, but let's just look at a few of the major ones. It starts right at the beginning. In fact, even the opening crawl was cut down significantly. But you remember how Star Wars starts, of course you do. Vader's ship overtakes Leia's. She puts the plans into R2 and the droids hijack an escape pod down to Tatooine. Now, the rough cut was very different. Lucas introduced Luke very early. The opening space battle and Vader-Leia droid scenes are cross-cut with Luke doing stuff, like really boring stuff on the old moisture farm. These scenes of Luke are dull, they don't progress the story, and they slow the movie to a bloated crawl before it even gets going. They were also hitting the audience too early with a lot of ideas, characters, and background about the Empire, instead of just giving them the lean start with Darth Vader, a princess, and 2 robots. The rough cut ruined the intensity of the space battle and confused the audience. Hirsch knew he had to speed it up and, have it make sense. So he cut out all that Luke nonsense and created the opening we know and love. Now the movie starts with a bang, everything flows, and when we do meet our hero Luke, it's at the natural beginning for his character in the story that makes sense, when he buys the droids from the Jawas. Consider this as well. In the rough cut, when the droids head down to the planet, we've already seen Luke and a bunch of people being boring. We know Tatooine is populated. But in the final cut, we don't know what the droids will encounter, and the very first thing they do run into are weird little Jawas. So the edits make Tatooine more mysterious and alien, which was a huge factor in creating the phenomenon that was Star Wars, and also creates more tension in what weird dangers the droids might face. The other massive change that they made on editing was the entire final act. In the rough cut, the trench run with Luke and the Rebel pilots is similar, but the Death Star was not about to destroy the Rebel base. Is that a Death Star exploding or my head? Next time you watch the movie, pay close attention. You'll see that every piece of footage that follows the story thread of the Rebel base being attacked at the end by the Death Star is delivered with off-screen dialogue over inserts of either computer stuff or in some cases footage we've seen before in the movie. It was all edited in after the fact. And good thing, these edits were integral to the story. If there's no threat to the rebels, the stakes are much lower in the final act. They're really just attacking a base that's sitting in space. The ticking clock that drives the excitement of the final act is the Death Star coming into range of the rebel base, and none of that stuff was in the rough cut. You can see how a little bit of tinkering, cutting, and moving things around can change the story considerably. Of course, you can make bad edits too. One quick example is the Jabba the Hutt scene from the Star Wars Special Edition, a scene we didn't grow up with the 77 version. It was removed from the rough cut because it was redundant. All the information delivered by Han and Jabba in that scene come in other scenes. Of course, Lucas couldn't help himself from adding it back in with the special edition. Now it slows the movie down, and I'd argue it doesn't make a lot of sense. By the time the special editions came out, Jabba's character has changed because we met him in Return of the Jedi. He was a tough, scary alien that killed at will. And after seeing 2 movies building up to his reveal, we knew him as this mysterious and powerful character that had put this price on Han's head. Meeting Jabba in Jedi was a big deal. In the special edition, Jabba's a twerpy dingus that Han talks to, even steps on his tail. The bad editing ruins Jabba and throws you right out of the movie. But you know what? Don't get me started on the special editions or we'll be here all day. Just go hug an editor. They may have saved your favorite movie. I'm Craig Silliphant, the Movie Geek, and this was 5-Minute Film School on Punch.
Punch TV is brought to you in part by Amazing Stories, providing Saskatoon with comics, games, toys, graphic novels, t-shirts, and more for over 22 years. Online at AmazingStoriesComics.com, in person on 8th Street in Saskatoon.
All right, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that you need to put on your radar. So first off is this X-Men Grand Design. So there's already 2 issues of this out. This is Ed Piskor. He did Hip Hop Family Tree. He's amazing. And this is amazing. And I will tell you why. Normally, I'm not so chuffed about the X-Men. There's just like too much of it, saturation level, like maxed out, and I was just like, I can't keep up. I don't even care anymore. So I tuned out of X-Men stuff a long time ago, and a lot of the movies were really bad. But this has seriously got my fire ignited. So what Ed Piskor did for Hip Hop Family Tree was basically it's the story of hip hop, the history, all the players, what's important, what you need to know. And that is what he has done for the X-Men. So he picks up and basically takes 300 issues and puts them into 5 comic books. So 2 have come out, 3 are yet to come, and it is awesome. He has a really distinctive style. I love that sort of 70s look that he has, and the white, man, woo, pops right off the screen. It's cool because the color of the pages is kind of tawny, and so when he uses white for explosions and stuff, it's just like, wow, never seen that before. So way to go, Ed. This is awesome. You should pick it up. I'm really enjoying it, and I don't care about the X-Men, so there you go. Hearty endorsement for that. The other thing that you need to look at is coming out in March is Robert Kirkman's new book, Oblivion Song. Everybody knows him from The Walking Dead. Well, this is a kind of an apocalyptic type thing. There's been a disaster, a bunch of people died, and it turns out that there's this weird rift, and there's monsters, and there's a scientist, Nathan Cole, who feels obligated to go in and rescue these people. And the government kind of is like, yeah, we're done. We're not going to fund your project to do that anymore. So where does that take us? Like, why did this happen? What is this other place? Who are the people that are still trapped in there? What the heck is going on? It's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. You definitely want to get on board with this. I got a preview copy of it. I was lucky enough to read through it, and I really, really enjoyed it. The art is awesome, and the storytelling is good too. So get on board, get to your comic shop, pick up a copy as soon as you can. So tell them that you want one. And that pretty much wraps up the show. So thank you for tuning in. A big, big thank you to Jill for coming in and talking about Babysitter's Club, and to Ryan for sharing his fantastic work and for talking about Daisy Blackwood. And again, to our cast and crew for coming out and making a great show. Hopefully we will see you in 1 month's time. And in the meantime, keep your dukes up.
So that's about all the time that we have today for the Tweet Beat. What happened to smelling your armpits? You smell your armpits this time.
I did.
No, we got to do it again. We got to do it again. There was no smelling of the armpits.
Punch TV is brought to you in part by Amazing Stories, providing Saskatoon with comics, games, toys, graphic novels, t-shirts, and more for over 22 years. Online at AmazingStoriesComics.com, in person on 8th Street in Saskatoon.